The knife never comes from the front. If it did, you would see it. You would brace yourself. You would fight back. The front is where enemies stand. The front is where conflict is obvious and defenses are raised. But betrayal rarely announces itself as an attack. It arrives quietly. It sits across from you at dinner. It laughs at your jokes. It listens as you share your ambitions, your fears, even your weaknesses. And that is why it works. The most damaging betrayals never come from strangers. A stranger has no access to your back. Only someone you trust can stand close enough to strike without resistance. 5 centuries ago, Niccolò Machiavelli observed this pattern in the courts of Florence. He did not describe how people should behave. He described how they do behave. Loyalty, he warned, is not the default setting of human nature. It is conditional. There are 3 subtle behaviors that quietly predict betrayal before it happens. Once you recognize them, you will never look at your circle the same way again. Most people treat trust as a feeling, a sense of comfort, a good vibe. But Machiavelli would argue that trust is not emotional, it is structural. The biggest mistake you make is projection. You assume that because you value loyalty, others do too. Because you keep your word, they will keep theirs. This is a strategic error. Human behavior is not guided purely by morality. It is guided by incentives, by advantage, by fear, by opportunity. When circumstances shift, behavior often shifts with them. That is why trust must be measured, not felt. Real trust is built on 3 variables: consistent patterns over time, aligned incentives, and predictable responses under pressure. Words can lie, intentions can change, but patterns reveal character. If you want to avoid betrayal, you must stop reading emotions and start decoding behavior. The first sign of a person you should never fully trust is the weaponized vulnerability. This is the premature confessor, the one who shares something deeply personal far too quickly. Within days, sometimes within hours, they reveal trauma, secrets, heavy emotional stories. It feels like closeness. It feels like you are being chosen. In reality, you may be being positioned. Fast intimacy creates leverage. When someone hands you a painful secret early on, it activates the principle of reciprocity. They gave you something valuable. Now you feel pressure to give something back. You lower your guard. You reveal your own insecurities. You believe you are bonding. But psychologically, an obligation has just been formed. A person with healthy boundaries understands that loyalty is built over time. A premature confessor is often testing how quickly you can be opened. The most important moment is not when they confess. It is when you set a boundary. Say no. Withhold your own secrets. Reduce emotional merging. Watch the reaction. Respect signals sincerity. Guilt, anger, or sudden coldness signal control slipping. And that is where the mask begins to crack. The second sign is the pathological neutral. This is the person who refuses to take sides when stakes clearly exist. They say they see both perspectives. They avoid involvement. They frame their hesitation as maturity. But in moments where loyalty requires discomfort, neutrality often reveals self-preservation over principle. Machiavelli warned that neutrality during conflict is rarely respected. The one who refuses to choose is distrusted by the loser and quietly dismissed by the winner. In personal life, the pattern is the same. If someone witnesses you being disrespected and refuses to stand anywhere, they are calculating risk. They are protecting access, not protecting you. The micro-test is simple. Ask for clarity. Create a moment where a stance must be taken. Watch what happens when ambiguity is no longer available. Do they commit, or do they deflect? Accountability makes the neutral uncomfortable. The hidden danger is this: they look like allies, but they behave like observers. And observers do not bleed with you when pressure rises. If you value clarity over comfort, this channel exists for that. The third sign is the moral performer. This is the person who constantly announces their integrity. They emphasize how honest they are, how empathetic, how drama-free. Their goodness is repeated so often that it becomes branding. Psychology calls this reaction formation. The louder someone advertises a virtue, the more likely they are compensating for insecurity around it. Virtue signaling is not the same as integrity. Integrity is quiet. It does not require applause. Watch behavior toward people who cannot offer advantage. Notice how they treat service workers, subordinates, or those outside their social value. Words may be polished, but patterns tell the truth. The test here is withdrawal of praise. Reduce validation. Stop reacting to moral performances. If appreciation disappears and hostility increases, you are witnessing dependence on admiration. The mask cracks when the spotlight fades. The most dangerous part is when morality becomes a weapon. If questioned, they flip the script. They frame doubt as betrayal. They hide behind their reputation. And that is when you realize you are not trusting character, you are trusting presentation. Understanding patterns is the first step. Testing them is the second. Engineers do not trust a bridge because it looks strong. They stress test it. They add weight. They simulate pressure. If cracks appear under controlled tension, the structure was never safe to begin with. Relationships require the same discipline. Start with boundaries. The premature confessor thrives on emotional speed and obligation. Slow the pace. Say no to a request. Limit access to your time. A stable person will respect your limit without drama. A manipulator will react with guilt, anger, or sudden coldness. That reaction is data. Next, require clarity. The pathological neutral avoids positions. Create a situation where a stance must be taken. It does not have to be explosive. It can be a decision, an opinion, or a moment of minor conflict. Watch whether they commit or deflect. Accountability reveals loyalty faster than comfort ever will. Finally, remove validation. The moral performer depends on applause. Withdraw praise. Offer neutrality instead of admiration. Observe whether their behavior remains consistent without reinforcement. Integrity does not collapse when attention fades. Do not confront theatrically. Do not announce your suspicions. The amateur argues and demands reassurance. The strategist adjusts access quietly. Less time, less information, less proximity. Pressure exposes structure. You are not becoming suspicious, you are becoming perceptive. This knowledge is not an invitation to become cynical. It is an invitation to become precise. Paranoia assumes everyone is dangerous. Precision evaluates patterns and responds proportionally. There is a difference between closing yourself off and refining who stands beside you. Filtration is maturity. A smaller circle with proven resilience under pressure is stronger than a wide circle built on charm and convenience. Loyalty that survives boundaries, accountability, and silence is real loyalty. Everything else is performance. The promise at the beginning was clear. Betrayal rarely comes from the front. It comes from familiarity. But familiarity leaves clues. Patterns repeat. Incentives surface. Pressure reveals truth. When you learn to observe behavior instead of trusting declarations, surprise loses its power. You do not need to harden your heart. You need to sharpen your perception. Trust slowly. Test calmly. Adjust quietly. When you do, you stop being blindsided by what was visible all along. And that is the real advantage. Not controlling others, but seeing them clearly enough that they can never control you. If this message resonates, understand something important. This is not content for everyone. It is for those who prefer awareness over illusion, for those who would rather face uncomfortable truth than live comfortably blind. If that is you, subscribe. Not for drama, not for paranoia, but for clarity. Because the world does not reward the naive, and it does not respect the unaware. It respects those who see patterns before they become problems. Now pause for a moment. Think carefully. Who in your life fits one of these 3 patterns? The premature confessor who moves too fast, the neutral who never stands firmly, the moral performer who speaks loudly about virtue. Do not answer emotionally. Answer behaviorally. Replay interactions. Look for repetition. Patterns do not lie. But here is the harder question. Are you displaying any of these traits yourself? Are you oversharing to create attachment? Avoiding conflict to protect your own image? Advertising your goodness instead of living it quietly? Power begins with self-audit. If you want loyal people around you, you must remove these tendencies from your own character first. Loyalty attracts loyalty. Strength attracts strength. The ultimate advantage is not intimidation. It is perception. When you see clearly, you move differently. You give access deliberately. You trust slowly. You protect your perimeter without noise or theatrics. That is real power. Not controlling others, but understanding them so deeply that you are never caught off guard. Walk quietly, observe patiently, and trust only what survives time, pressure, and silence.